Rhino. It's the same Rhino. I just gave him a little present.
I'm still waiting for it to show up on my. Oh, it's loading. Ah, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Rhino needs representation, and if he doesn't want to show his face, then we can show his art.
That's a good idea.
You cool with
Nice.
that? Oh. Nice. I don't see it yet, but nice.
I took your little your 9-piece thing with the 8 images and then you in the center with the Master Chief helmet.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. This week on Loose Canon, we are going to be talking about the next act. This is a big one, you know. This is kind of like a big deal.
Yeah.
Stuff is happening. For those who don't know what I mean by the next act, if you visited Mara's court for the last time, presumably, all those weeks ago, Mara essentially said peace, and she vanished. She specifically talked about how she dreamt of a friend that she will come to have that said she needed to choose a side, even if it was the wrong side, etc., and how she would see us again someday. And that she's basically off to prepare for the next act, the big war that's coming, like the equivalent to Oryx's arrival, right?
Yeah. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting, like this is a minor of all the things that we could talk about in that transcript, in that video cutscene. I don't know. The way that Mara kind of disappeared and like
people said that was similar to the Extra Stranger, and I at least didn't recognize it. Was it similar?
I think so.
It was the same way.
It was?
Yeah.
It's the exact same way.
But I don't know if it's worth. I don't know if it's worth reading into that too much because, like, you know, we have like. So the way that we appear places is through like transmatting.
And we have different transmat effects.
Yeah. So maybe she just had a cool transmat. I don't know.
Now at Eververse. Like Mara, I meant like our just to immediately derail this to something stupid, but are transmats like a canon thing? Like,
yeah.
Do I drop down next to Petra in my Cabal dropship? And she goes, oh, okay, it's just the Guardian.
I see. No, that's a good question. I don't know.
Like, is she concerned?
I don't think that has been canon yet. I think it has to be. If Dancing Guardians are canon,
yeah,
transmat effects probably are.
They don't dance with each other, just kind of at each other.
Yeah.
But on that same token, we do have 3 different awoken transmat things. And the one that Marasov used is not any of those 3.
It's true.
So you could potentially use that to argue that it does mean something.
I mean, it just means that we don't have it yet, right?
Yeah.
Shut up, blonde boy.
So let me have a look. Let's find the Exo Stranger, that particular cutscene.
Okay. So while you look for that, what does everyone think about the next act? When we go into Mara's court, many weeks ago, months ago at this point, we've gone to Mara's court, and she had her little hologram up, and it showed the pyramid ships, and people kind of were like, "Oh my God, what's that about?" Now, the last time when we went in there, they were there again. The pyramid ships were on the hologram device, and then Mara essentially says how she's off to fight a war, and she leaves. So, the Extra Stranger once said, the Awoken sitting out there at the edge of the light and dark, they need to choose a side, even if it is the wrong side. What side do you guys think Mara is picking? Is she studying the enemy, or is she siding with them?
Well, you know, I think when the Exo Stranger said about the Awoken being off there, hovering between the light and the dark, I think everything that we've learned from the Maracena and everything else is that the Awoken have picked a side. Really, like, you know. Well, yeah. I mean, they didn't come back. Like they came back.
Marasov used bomb logic, used dark, built a throne world for the light. That's not picking a side.
Right.
I think the fact that they came back at all to try and save who was left behind shows that they're on the side of humanity.
Yeah, but can humanity
in
not be on
terms
the
of-
side of the dark?
I don't think that it's okay. Humanity could be on the side of the dark, but I don't think that they are based on everything we know so far.
Okay.
I think that the Awoken made a conscious decision. You know, they intervened at Twilight Gap. You know, well, prior to Twilight, you know, like they intervened to try and prevent the wolves from.
They started the Reef Wars to protect humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, like if all they cared about was the survival of themselves, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a very darkness type thing to do, to go out of your way to help somebody else. That is an if we're talking about the philosophies of the darkness and the light, that's out of the light playbook 100%.
Oryx
Like the
came,
Hive would.
Oryx came to us, technically came at us for revenge, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, but I don't think he. I've heard some arguments that say that Oryx came here. Like I'm not going to argue that it wasn't for revenge, but it was to do with tribute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could argue that without the tribute from Crota, like he was like, okay, I'm going to have to sort this out myself. You know, and he'd been hunting down like the Traveler and Teox for millions of years. I don't know, a long time. I don't know what the time scale
Relatively,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, a really long time. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel as though you never see. It's something that you might see from the Fallen, kind of going out of their way to help another like section of their species. Like, you know, somebody from House of Wolves might help somebody from the Devils or Winter or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, you know, if you look at the way that the Hive function, I don't think they would ever go out of their way to help somebody else, and that's a kind of key part of their philosophy and their tie to the darkness. So basically, to summarize, I think the Exo Stranger was unfair to say that the Awoken hadn't picked a side. So I think they had.
I don't think it's unfair to say. I think if Mara could sacrifice the light to the darkness just to save humanity, she would. Like, she'd be like, take the Traveler, leave the humans, be on your way.
Right. And that poses a whole another set of problems, because the dark have been chasing the light, or trying to gain control over the light ever since the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do that, if they attain control over the light in any aspect, I mean, we're gonna probably see some pretty major developments.
And kind of leading off of what you said, Mara, at the beginning of that scene, she said how, like, when there's too much darkness in the world, light must, like, make it shine, whatever the hell it is. Light needs to overpower the darkness when there's too much darkness, and when there's too much light, darkness needs to engulf the light, and kind of it needs to exist in a balance. And so at the end of D2, yeah, Ulatan. Exactly. It needs to exist in a balance, and at the end of D2, when the Traveler reawoke, so did the pyramid ships. So is it like, okay, elevation of light needs elevation of dark?
Maybe, yeah.
Well, if it is truly a balance between light and dark, I mean, you know, what's funny is I always think about I never think about it as two sides of a coin. I always thought of it more of a side of either being between the light, being against the light, or being with the light, and it being more of a three-sided, a triangle, right? But what we're up against right now is we've got three different types of positions. You know, we've got those who align with the darkness, and those who align with the light, and they do that in a wholehearted approach. And then there's those are trying to waffle between the two in a balance.
Mm.
Maybe that's where Destiny will go. I mean, if rumors are to be true, like I really hate the rumors about where Destiny 3 is going, but like, and I also really hate the idea of a Guardian using actual dark like powers, like dark
Right.
weapons, like give them to me, but like dark powers, like no, that doesn't make sense to me. Maybe
Yeah, well,
Guardians will kind of try to stride that balance.
I think I hope not. I have a similar point of view in that I just feel as though it would kind of be, it would run counter to all of the everything that we know about Guardians so far to have darkness powers.
Yeah, if they were
I don't
gonna
know.
start that story, in my opinion, they would have to start that story early on. Like that would need to be the end of Destiny 1, where it's like using the light is not enough, and it needs to be like, oh, this is gonna be controversial, and we're gonna go into that. It's a little too late in the game to make that decision.
It does feel a bit like that. I actually feel as though maybe D2, vanilla D2 would have been a good place to
Vanilla
explore
D2,
that.
yeah. Where
You
it was
know?
like the Travelers shut down and we're
Yeah.
useless now. We need something more.
Yeah.
So I
don't
guess
know.
it's never too late, technically, right?
I suppose not, but
They could do it. If they do it right, it's never too late. But if one day they're just like, hey, darkness powers, we're like, the fuck?
Yeah.
What do you
don't
think,
know.
Guardian?
I feel like that's kind of. I mean, I agree with you, Anon. I don't think we're gonna have dark powers. I kind of agree that I don't think this war is really two-sided. I think it has three sides to it. There are the ones for the light, for the darkness, and the ones in between. And the reason we have the Awoken at this point is they're there to fill that role of the ones who seek balance between the two. Because that's Mara's whole entire game plan. It isn't just like, oh yeah, we're gonna defeat the darkness, or oh yeah, we're gonna push back the light. She's attempting to keep the balance.
Yeah.
And that's what the Awoken are. And she says it in the latest visit. It's like that is what the Awoken are, is dealing with the fact that the light must cast out the darkness and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
exactly.
Bungie has put the Awoken there to fill that role of the balance so that the Guardians can maintain their light.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it kind of reminds me some of the things that she said. So what was it? When there is too much darkness in the universe, light must cast it away, and when there is too much light, darkness must drown it out. And that really reminds me of the start of the Books of Sorrow, where the worm gods are imprisoned, and as the hive escape, as the hive are formed and escape the fundament and start spreading across the galaxy, it does feel as though every other race that they encounter is kind of embraced the light, and it's almost like there is the galaxy exists in this, like, it's like the galaxy is in a golden age. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say the whole galaxy, but whatever area that the hive are from and the races around that, they all, they embrace the light. They have this collaborative, almost like a federation of different races.
I mean, wasn't that the Ecumen? There was actually a collaboration of different races.
Yeah.
And there was even like little ETs in the background, if you notice, nice little Easter egg.
What?
It's canon. What can I say?
I don't.
What?
I don't know. Yeah.
Was
I don't
Alf
even
there?
like Star Trek.
Yeah, Alf.
But yeah, so essentially, yeah, that being the earliest point for us to know anything, it does kind of seem like it all started there. The darkness gained a massive army, and at the same time, the light cast its light, or the sky rather, because it's the deep in the sky, and they cast the light in the dark. So the sky casts its light across all these civilizations, bringing them up to kind of counteract the dark, counteract the deep.
Right. And E.T. was there.
Yeah, E.T. was there. And the Ecumen.
Ecumen.
No, that's weird. Don't do that.
Yeah, sorry.
And audio
His
listeners will
fingers
have
touch
no
the
idea.
Yeah. Good. Watch the
That
video.
that really threw me off. That really just derailed. I had something like to say.
Our train is off the track.
Okay,
So
I got it. Oh no, go ahead.
when
Go
is the third act gonna happen? I mean, are we thinking it's gonna be D3, or are we gonna see like, are we just gonna kind of drop off with Marasov until D3?
I would like it to kind of be like exactly mirroring D1. So we just got our Taken King. In fall, let's get our Rise of Iron, and then the following, let's get the next act. And like the Rise of Iron can kind of set up the next act. I'd like personally, but that's just me.
But would you? So part of the reason that Destiny 2 came about, at least part of the reason, is because it was quite difficult for Bungie to make changes in the engine that they'd built. Creating new assets took a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you?
The tiger.
I don't want there to be a Destiny 3. What I would like is for Destiny 2 to have another expansion like Forsaken. And I know this is getting off the point of lore, but I think if those were the things that we had to pick from, I would much rather a continuation of the existing world, and fine, yeah, like let people who don't have the original just buy this and get the game. So effectively, it is a Destiny 3, I suppose. But I also don't want this like hard. Like it kind of sucks. Like I've been talking to people a few times this week about all of the stuff in Destiny 1, and like realistically, I'm probably not going to boot up Destiny 1 anytime soon.
No.
But a lot of that content is really good. And it's kind of a shame that we have this like, oh, okay, you have Destiny 2, these are all the things you can do. Vault of Glass, King's Fall, the Dreadnought even, just, Venus, all of these fantastic locations are just like, okay, that's previous content, you can't do that anymore. I would hate to have that again, except now it's Destiny 3 and Destiny 2, yeah.
No, I completely agree. And the only reason why I'd want a Destiny 3 is because even with this revised engine, it's still not optimal. And there's still they're still kind of walking through mud with it. And if a Destiny 3 could actually fix that, can actually make for much easier on-the-fly changes, and it could like retune some of the balancing issues, and like just obviously don't just do Destiny 3 because you need a new title or you're trying to sell a new title, but like do Destiny 3 because you can actually make a drastic improvement to the engine. And that's the only reason why I'm even suggesting a Destiny 3.
But in terms of if we stop talking about things like in terms of Destiny 3 or whatever, like I guess the question is, do we expect the third act to begin like this September, or do we expect it to be the following September, or is it even going to be? I mean, one of the reasons why Bungie had this very tight every September there would be a release is because that's what Activision wanted. That wasn't something that Bungie. That's something that was quite clearly.
So we've got the next few pieces of content that are coming to us that they were very much a part of, and the other studios that helped develop them were very much a part of. So we won't really see anything that's solely Bungie until probably a full year from now, right?
Yeah, it could even be longer. I mean, Destiny 2 I don't know how long Destiny 2 was in development. A long time.
They said it was like a year after Destiny 1 released, so it was like 3 years, I think.
Yeah. So it might not be for 2 or 3 years before we actually seeing any significant. Like I know Bungie have published the next up until September. They have this roadmap. But that's just what they've published. It's probable that they have an internal roadmap that stretches much further. But
well, to kind of touch on the roadmap, like to answer your first question, Penumbra is Season of the Shadow, It's very clearly going to involve Callus and everything, and Callus had his shadows, and Callus is trying to make an army, and he's like planning for the end of the world and everything. Like there's sorry, this random chat spam threw me off. Callus is very much in the know, right? So it would make sense to see the next act happen this fall. It'd be like Penumbra sets it up and then it begins. But that would also be the first time Bungie's ever actually done that. So like I don't know. That's new territory for them.
It is, but I mean, I feel as though I don't think I think the Destiny 2 engine is actually pretty good. Like when you see it, like there are some rough edges, but that's true with any game engine, and you know, especially when you see it running on PC, like it's absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. Just comparing it to even new titles that are coming out with their choppy frames and they're missing pieces of terrain and holes that you just fall in or get stuck floating. And I mean, even brand new games coming out today have a litany of issues that are basic to the very 3D model constructs of the environments that Bungie doesn't suffer from. I mean, there's silly places where you can glitch into and find yourself stuck or whatever, or enemies are behind a wall and you can't kill them. But for the most part, as far as Bungie's world goes, my goodness, it's pretty dang polished, especially how smooth the transitions are when you're playing in your first-person shooter. They've always been known for such a very seamless first-person shooter experience. I wish other games had that, but they don't.
Definitely, yeah. And as Lon Boy says, like the menus are quite slow. I completely accept that.
Yeah, but those are slow.
That's more of that seems to be a console issue rather than a, like, you know, I haven't played it on PC, but from what I've seen of videos on PC, that doesn't seem to be as much.
Just
of an
from
issue.
my experience at home, because we've got two Xboxes, one on top of the other, and we've got two TVs, and mine's an older console, and my wife's on the Xbox One X. Hers is much faster. When it boots up, it's probably twice as fast booting up. And when she goes into loading screens, she's always everywhere we go before I am.
Maybe I should get.
Yeah, it's just a hardware issue with PS4s. They're just not built to keep up with the Destiny engine.
Well, I mean, I think they do. I think the engine actually, the engine is
Plus,
very.
If you get a hard drive,
flexible.
hard drive will help your menu screens as well, because that'll instead of using the internal, it'll use the hard drive.
The hard drive absolutely will. My buddy has a solid state drive, and he's got like PC loading screens. Like it's just open, close. Here's your shit. Get out.
Yeah.
Talking about like D3, I kind of feel like for me, I just reference D3 as the next big step in the story. Like not like the next individual game. Like D3 is just the next big step in the narrative.
Well, so let's talk more about the narrative then.
Yes, that is why we're
back
here.
To Ulan 10. There we go.
Could Penumbra actually be a direct build up for the next act, or could Penumbra just be like another angle to view it at? Like we just got the Awoken angle. Are we gonna see the Callus angle, and then maybe we'll get something else, and then we'll get another like Penumbra-esque DLC where we're gonna see another angle, and then we'll actually get the next act. Like we'll just see the many facets of it.
I think the latter of what you just said. I think we're gonna see it from different angles before we go on to the next final act. I think we're gonna get a glimpse of the act. We're gonna start to learn about the final act, but we're not gonna see the final act until well into the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that we will see. I've been really impressed with the speed through which we've been like uncovering new things in the lore. You know, since the launch of Destiny 2.
Well, for
now I know. Well, since the launch of Destiny 2, I've been really surprised by how quickly Bungie have answered a lot of questions that they've raised. Like things like you know, like I know this wasn't necessarily done to everybody's like pleasure or as well as it could have been, but you know, like we met Anna Bray, we met Osiris, we kind of met a worm god I mean, whether that was a real worm god or not, we still fought like Zol.
The interpretation of a worm god.
Fine, but still, like that was like I was really surprised that was something that we would encounter within the game so quickly. I thought there was going to be like at least another year's worth of build up before we.
I said the same thing
like
when
that.
Taken King was beginning to leak. Like, remember when the Red Bull cans leaked and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna fight Oryx." I was like, "Oryx is the king of the hive. We're not gonna fight him a year into the game. Like, are you dumb?"
Yeah.
And then here it is, and I'm like, "Oh, I guess
Yeah.
I'm dumb."
Yeah, but isn't that amazing though? Like,
Yeah.
and it turns out like okay, Oryx was the king of the hive,
But he
at the
wasn't.
same time, at the same time, it's like,
Yeah.
all right, so how can we possibly beat that now? That was kind of boring, and then like a year and a half later, it's like, okay, now we're gonna fight a worm god on Mars. Cool, all right. Like it's just I
just
have
ramping
been very surprised by the speed that we have kind of encountered things. So, the things that were hinted at in the Leviathan lore around like the shadows, around this thing that Callus encountered out in the middle of nowhere, I would not be surprised if we discover a lot about that, and it is directly related to the next act. I mean, like if somebody
we don't even have the direct clues. I mean, we have hints from the Gambit about what he encountered in his, experience out in the middle of nowhere.
So let's
Are
actually
these fragments of the same thing?
Yeah, let's actually talk about there's creatures kept in cages that snuff the light. So is that light casting out the darkness? Like, is that an example of it? Like the traveler, the sky, the light, the whoever encased the creatures that were a threat.
Right.
Was that like? Could we actually see those in game? Whatever these, I think they described them kind of as like slithery.
Yeah. I can't remember how they said. They kind of reminded me of like Thrall in some way, but I guess they're probably not Thrall. I don't know why I got that impression.
I got the impression that they were kind of like, for anyone that plays Monster Hunter, like a great Jagras that just ate something. It's basically a big iguana, but it can eat like other small animals, and then it gets like super fat, and it's so fat that it's like legs have to like kind of like just use its paws and kind of with it, like wobble.
It's like me after I've had a big meal.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so it's not exactly slithery like a snake, but it's so immense that it kind of has to slither along and just use a lot of its body for the movement and less of its legs. That's how I imagined it.
Well, they use a lot of serpent imagery and a lot of snake imagery for the Gambit, and if they are somewhat related to whatever Callus experienced. It's weird because Callus has this obsession with the Leviathan, or that creature that he
yes
that he looked. What was it called?
The land whales.
Big slug. Yeah, the land whales.
That's exactly how I imagined it.
Oh, I didn't think of that. I was just having a look at the
And they would grow so large that they would just swallow up entire cities, and he would just unleash it on things.
Mm-hmm. That's badass.
So
I hope we see
that
one
is
of those.
pretty
That's awesome.
But could we see that in a much smaller scale, or
Like,
could have? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating. But if there was some sort of a smaller scale entity that had a similar facet to it,
like the flaming servitor in the Scourge of the Past raid, you can have an escape mechanic from a land whale, and it's like trying to eat you. It's just like barreling down at you. You got to sparrow away. It's like the same thing, just a different enemy.
I remember having a conversation with someone ages ago where I was saying I wish that there was a Cabal raid where there was like like they talk about land tanks and stuff. Like imagine if the whole raid was like at least the start of the raid you actually had to chase after this land tank. That would be so cool. And then
that would be awesome.
Yeah, because you never really don't really see them move.
Well, I think of the first Destiny imagery that we had of the Guardians with their round ghosts out basically trying to, defeat the Ahamkara is what we were calling it. And it was this huge, massive, almost eel-like creature that was plated and had, jaw upon jaw upon jaw. It was very Dune. I mean, the whole imagery was very much from Dune. They even looked like they were holding staffs, which could be the same as like the hooks that the Dune riders used,
Yeah.
But what was funny
I have
about
a picture here.
What's funny about that is they keep using these similar images. Like even the Ahamkara that we fought, he is very eel-like, but he has appendages. And then what they talk about, the land whale, even though it's a huge slug, it has feet, many little tiny feet. And then what we know about the Leviathan and its eel-like presence, and then whatever the drifter encounter and its snake-like presence. I mean, a lot of imagery is very, like that.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that evil thing. How do I phrase this?
Don't use evil.
The thick boys are the bad guys.
Well, that's the craziest thing about a thick boy, because literally they are a morph. And what is a morph?
What about Titans?
They're the bad guys. Dredge and Yor. Boom.
Yeah, Titans.
Okay. You know what?
There you go. They're the reason for the fall of humanity.
They built the wall. It's not to keep the enemies out. It's to keep us in.
All right, Hawthorne. Jeez.
I want to kick Hawthorne off that ledge so bad.
I mean, it is quite... like everybody else has a ghost. She should be more careful.
She really should.
I slide to meet every vendor that I ever meet.
Oh.
She's got Lewis.
Yeah.
Glitchbird.
I really like...
It's got very fast reactions.
I really like Hawthorne for where she is though, because of the Dawning lore that we got, where it's like basically she got kicked out of the city for punching Hideo in the face and breaking his nose, and it's like she comes back to the city and they're like, all right, where do you want to stand? I want to stand above Hideo.
Yeah.
Like, hey, asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's on top now?
Oh my gosh. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking, Guardian? You're too quiet. Talk more.
I'm just thinking. I honestly, kind of going back to the speed of the storytelling. I think the next act has to be fall 2019. I feel like it's already kind of been drawn out too much. Like people are already kind of getting like irritated with the slowness of every 3 weeks we're getting something about this. So I feel like they're gonna have to I feel like it's the next big thing. Forsaken was all about the Awoken and like everything going on, and then it just kind of fell off, and then we got other stories. So I feel like the next big story has to be the continuation of this.
I mean, but at the same time, it could be that they continue another part of the story and not the third act of like Mara's story.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that. Like I agree that they're gonna have to do something because they want to keep people engaged. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what they have to do is say, right, he is Act 3. He is what Mara was talking about. What they could do is they could say, right, I don't know. It could be anything, really. I don't know. It could be something to do with the Vex. We haven't really heard much about the Vex for a while.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there was that leaked footage, you know?
Just going off of history, what have we encountered? I mean, we encountered the Vex, then we encountered the Hive, and then we encountered the Fallen.
Technically, still, we have never had, or we've only had one Hive expansion or Fallen expansion, and that was House of Wolves, which although great,
and they were augmented.
Yeah, no, that was Rise of Iron, which is what I mean. We've only gotten one Fallen. We've gotten Scorn, we've gotten Siva Splicers, but we've only gotten House of Wolves. So
Those are still fallen,
realistically,
technically.
we should it should be time for another Vex encounter of some sort.
or
I'm just
Cabal.
thinking,
Although
yeah.
Penumbra, so like that should be Cabal, right?
If it's going to be anybody, I think it probably. Well, okay. Let me just have a look at this roadmap again. Hang on.
So
Penumbra is Cabal and Callus.
so let me throw a monkey wrench in this then. What if the pyramids actually aren't the darkness? Like what if they are just coincidentally another thing? You know?
like the Aphelion.
Yeah, what if it's an awoken threat type of thing and it's going past the awoken now. It's coming to us. And so Mara is not preparing to fight the pyramids. It's completely coincidental. She's like, these things are moving again. I need to keep an eye on them. But also, I have the next act that's about to begin. I'm gonna go prepare for that now. So she's like, she's got her hands in like multiple things right now, and
I agree with that.
We're just kind of pushing them together because we don't know better.
Yeah, and that's
Okay,
definitely.
so remember the throwaway line in this just dawned on me. Remember the throwaway line that was in somewhere, I think it's in the Grimoire somewhere, about the Cabal, how the Cabal just wipe out universes or not universes, but they blow up, worlds just for being in their way.
That was a D1
yada yada
line.
yada.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then at the end somewhere it says, but was something, or like, how did they get here? Was something bigger chasing them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're talking
feel
about
as
what
though-
if this group is running away from something?
Right.
Yeah, that was a discussion, but at the same time, I feel as though like D2 has invalidated a lot of it. Because like
It did.
there's been absolutely no mention of them running away from anything in any of the D2 lore, as far as I'm aware.
I guess in a sense
know,
they were running away from Callus.
Well, so I mean, the Red Legion, Gaul, and everybody else, and what was the guy called? The dude with
The consul.
Yeah, they overthrew.
He reminds me of
Um,
Nixon.
riddled with phlebitis. So they overthrew Gaul, and then sent him off in the Leviathan.
They
and-
overthrew Callus.
Right.
Yep, sorry, So Gaul and the consul overthrew Callus, sent him off in the Leviathan. Callus encountered something which made him think, this is a big deal. He started recruiting these shadows, and he was kind of, within all of that story, there was no mention of any threat to the Cabal as a civilization. Like,
But what's boggling is how Callus, we haven't even seen his true form, and all
no,
we've
we
seen
haven't.
are frames that
Yeah.
are disguised as a big ugly Cabal.
Technically,
And one of the Go on.
those frames are draped with his skin, though.
yes.
Like the
Right.
excess skin that he has. So
And there is an entry that's to do with the fallen, the Elixni shadow. I can't remember his name now. I can't remember.
Fuck.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but he
the
says,
Baron of Shanks, Sekris the Baron of Shanks.
is it Sekris?
It
that
is
right?
it is Sekris. Everyone always confuses Sekris and Feltrock, but Feltrock is a scion.
Yeah, I was gonna say Feltrock, so I did the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Everyone does.
Sekris. He was the one that. Which one was the pilot?
That was Janus, ace pilot from the
That was the one. That was the one that set up a story arc. That one was the one that kind of made a keyway for the story of Callus, because just through that experience alone showed how Callus, is interested in the best fighter or example of that race to join his shadows.
Yeah.
And so it was so quick to change. Like at the end, he was like, "Well, you destroyed everybody that I was from, so I guess I'll join you."
So the entry that I was looking for is Robes of Sekris, and it says, in later days, my disguise could no longer fool him as it fooled others. His skill in designing and modifying mechanized life forms was unparalleled, and he made it clear He knew I was not what I appeared to be. I made it clear that either way he would continue to serve. But I think he guessed that my form and my strength are inextricably linked.
Oh my God. See, there you go. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
But it's
The
kind of...
I just wanted to correct myself. The ace pilot was Jarus, not Janus. Janus is like a Greek thing.
Oh yeah, with the multi faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting that, like, you're right. It is interesting. We still haven't seen Cullus's final form.
But what's crazy is just in the mechanics of the game, when his skin is stripped from his body at the very end, you see this very much a frame, skeleton underneath. And so, just like what you read on that line, where Secris can see that basically he's who he's telling everybody is just by looking at the mechanical nature of himself. Like he is able to detect that and see that beforehand. So is Callus using frame technology to hide himself, and by presenting himself as this entity that we fight? But where is the true Callus, residing? I mean, we went into the belly of the beast technically, and
but I mean, you can see from the surface of, like, even if Nessus is a small planet, right? You can see from the surface of Nessus that, like, the Leviathan is absolutely massive. Like, it's
right,
enormous.
it has a city on top, and and you only see the very tiniest part of it. Well,
So
so I mean, Nessus is huge, but Nessus isn't that huge.
But even if it's smaller than the Earth's moon, right?
Right.
You can still clearly see that, like, there is this tiny dot at the top of the Leviathan, which is the city, and then you land on that city, and it's pretty big.
And you don't even see, you couldn't even see a speck of a dot.
We don't even go into the city.
No, right. and like I think there's plenty of room for Bungie to say, oh yeah, the Leviathan's like 10 times the size of what we've seen, and there's nothing, there's nothing from stopping them from doing that.
What blows my mind is how they're described as morphs, and the few instances we've had where they describe the fluid that runs through a Cabal's body as being hackable by our ghost, and that they use it fundamentally for everything. It's like how they make everything. So if that is true of this, if that is true specifically of the Cabal race, not including Scions, because Scions, we've learned they're just enslaved into their faction or whatever. But does that set up a component or a mechanic or a piece of the story to where if their fluid can be hacked, could the Vex take control of that in some way?
I didn't know that their fluid could be hacked. I don't know what this is.
It's in your transcript somewhere. On one of the patrol missions, when you're fighting and you use your ghost, and he scans, or he talks about I can't remember what the mission is. Anyway, he talks about the fluid. They use it for everything. It's fuel for their ships. It's in their blood, basically, whatever their blood is, and it's hackable to some degree.
So, Callus refers to himself as their god, right? And Callus makes Callus robots to be in place of him using the leftover skin of himself. What if all the Cabal are just Callus skin robots?
That's insane.
That would be a crazy fucking plot twist, though, right?
As soon as you started talking, I started like, oh shoot, where's this gonna go?
like I don't believe that, but could you imagine?
Right, that would be insane.
I mean, it would be.
That'd be some like trippy, mythology thing.
Callus is the giant scion, and the Cabal don't actually exist. They're just constructs built by the scions to defend them.
Oh god, that's insane too.
I actually quite like that idea.
I do too. Bungie, if you're listening, make this happen. It's perfect.
That'd be freaking nuts, though.
But
Like-
I mean,
maybe not all the Cabal, but maybe many of the Cabal, right?
Right.
Like he's just a megalomaniac, and he just like created his own species of Cabal.
Mm.
Grow fat with strength. It just
Yes,
it just
exactly.
stings.
Grow fat with strength. I mean, that's very blah.
Yeah, I can grow fat all day. That doesn't make me strong.
but
You know what's
Callus's
funny is
form.
the little icon for what is the grow fat from strength icon thumbnail, whatever you call it. It very
Emblem?
much looks like it very much looks like fat cells,
I don't even
like
know.
fat cell building blocks.
Which icon?
I think it's one of the emblems.
No, it's the one that you get. It's like basically here's your invitation to the raid. It's the one that you're like after you've killed so many Cabal, it automatically gives it to you.
I'm not
Grow
sure
fat.
what that is.
Oh,
Okay.
The Acrius quest. Hack the system or some shit.
Oh, you're thinking about the transcript thing? Yeah, I think that is that the.
Destroyer of worlds, Boar the World Eater, Leviathan grow fat from strength. Are you talking about the little like honeycomb things?
Yeah, I think I know. I think I know what he's talking about. I don't know why he's talking about it, but I think I know what he's talking about.
Should we get back to the third act? Or the
Yeah,
second
we should
or
get
the
back
next
to
act?
that. Yeah,
should
the
get to the
honeycomb
third
looking
act of
thing.
this
Longboy's
episode.
got it.
Yeah, the honeycomb. But if you I don't know. Anyway, who knows?
Okay, but
I
like
don't.
Callus is very clearly a thick boy, so we just shouldn't trust him. Like he's the thick boy of thick boys. Or does that make
Probably.
it? Does that make it like? Ooh, sorry. Does that make it like loop back around?
No.
He's
I
so
don't think
thick
so.
that he's actually
He's the
good.
thickest of thick boys.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, right.
Wah, wah.
Let's think this through.
No, let's not think this through.
His
Let's stop
skin
thinking about
I mean,
is everywhere.
Okay,
And
let's
it's
talk about
thick.
what is inside the pyramids. Let's get back on track because we got about we're coming close to the end. We got about a half hour left, so let's talk about what is inside the pyramids. Whether it's the darkness, whether it's the things that smell like wet earth. Right, that's what it was from Black Armor.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
You know, there was a discussion that we had. I'm glad that you said what's inside the pyramids
Yes.
and not what's inside the pyramid ships. Because we had a discussion on Discord the other day around, like, we don't, because we were introduced to the Traveler as the Traveler, and our first kind of introduction, we didn't have to come up with the name ourselves. We didn't call it, like, that big round ship.
Mm-hmm.
We called it the Traveler. But because we don't have a name for the pyramids, a lot of people have said the pyramid ships, and somebody pointed out in the Ishtar Discord, like, why do we call them ships? And it's true. I don't think there's necessarily anything that would prove that they carry anything. My suspicion is that they do, based on what we know about what little we do know about them. But still, I think it would be more correct to just call them pyramids. So thank you for that, Anon.
I found the adventure. It's called Red Legion Black Oil. That's the one where they hack the fluid. But anyway, if you're looking it up later on, anybody listening, the transcript, Red Legion Black Oil.
Okay.
But so like, going back, I've always thought that the next act is not connected to the ships. That is just personally been me. Yeah, the pyramids. Sorry. I have always been under the impression that we're still within like what's happening in our solar system, and the ships are going to be like the act after that, or they're down the road. But we never actually had anything besides them just showing up in Mara's area to like hint that we're going to deal with them at all, except for them showing up. And then even then, we haven't like actually had Mara talk about that at all. Everything that she's talked about has kind of been relative to what's happening in the Dreaming City as of right now. I don't think the pyramid ships have anything to do with it as of this moment.
Well, that's definitely a possibility, but if we were just to kind of say, okay, what if the next act is the pyramids? What do you think that the pyramids are? Do you think that there are life forms inside them, or do you think that they're kind of just like travelers?
It's a good question.
I know, like Nibiru says,
Yeah, I was
it
just
makes
gonna
the
say
most
that.
sense that they'd be carrying something, which is true, but the traveler doesn't carry anything. The traveler, I mean,
It is
there's no,
Well, that's
there's no,
debatable.
there is no known species that the traveler was transporting from one place to another.
that we
You know,
know
like,
of.
Those.
yeah, that we know of, but I mean, we can only go on what we know of.
I heard that it
Like,
was carrying a bunch of vacuum cleaners.
Dysons.
Yeah, that's the one.
Dyson spheres.
Oh my god. Seeing Baxter's face when I say these things is so much better than just waiting for him to say something after I say it in a Discord.
yeah,
So if we're thinking like the traveler is kind of like an object of light, are we kind of assuming like the pyramids might just be objects of darkness?
Hmm.
well, I
Sure.
think it's just as likely as them being ships. I would say.
Well, like what was it? Not Mars Attacks, the other one, the serious one. That got like 3 remakes.
War of the Worlds?
War of the Worlds. Those ships were the aliens themselves, weren't they?
No.
No? Oh, well.
Well, not in the original.
Well, at least in the
But
one
I
I
don't
saw.
know. Mm,
It would
Okay.
eat the people, like it would like put them into the bottom of it, and it would like there'd be like a
okay.
big alien that would like basically
Oh,
eat
yeah.
them.
I don't think I've seen the
What?
the latest one. To me,
War of the
War
Worlds
of the
was the harvester robot things that
Yeah,
would pick
but
up
in the
people and then spread their blood on the crops to regrow their own alien forms. That never happened because the birds were something that they didn't foresee, and then it ended up killing them because they all got bird flu.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean in the books, or the book I should say, not books. In the book, I'm pretty sure there were aliens driving those ships. Like,
How many remakes of the book were there?
I don't
Were there
know.
aliens? Yeah, there were aliens driving the ships because that's how they died. Because but wait a second,
Were they
The
ships
ships
though?
were
I thought the
there
ships
the whole
were
time.
aliens.
I
the
have
ships
to go
were
to War of the
aliens.
Worlds wiki.
Yes.
Is there a
The
War
ships
of the
were
Worlds?
aliens.
Hmm.
Have you heard the musical War of the Worlds?
No.
It's absolutely
goodness.
amazing. It's the most terrifying thing. It's
Oh
brilliant.
my goodness.
Oh, it's so good.
So
So
I
like
did-
regardless of what they are, what's gonna happen with the ships?
I'm saying like
If that is
maybe
the next
maybe
act,
the
So
ships
that's what-
themselves are like travelers. They're entities
that's
of
what-
dark, and they kind of
Mhm.
I don't know.
Are they
Yeah.
harvesting or are they implanting?
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe the traveler goes around to kind of plant the seeds. Maybe they're like weed killer, and they're just like spreading it all on the flowers.
Maybe, or maybe they're more like farmers.
Rasputin did call it the flower
garden.
eater.
Oh, and he called the traveler the gardener.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's the two sides. The gardener plants the flowers, and then there's the flower eater, the one that's gonna come and destroy everything it created. So maybe there's nothing in the ships. Maybe they're just literally a fleet of like they're doing the airplane thing, like
Harvesting.
mustard gas.
Harvesting.
They put on
And
the
they
field.
didn't react
Tractor
to the
beam.
traveler awakening. They reacted to the like that sheer amount of light
Mm-hmm.
being planted.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm reading about War of the Worlds now. Sorry, let me.
Coming, he's
Close
coming
that
for your
tab.
light.
Yeah, kind of
You've
like
grown
Mass
fat
Effect and the
from strength.
Reapers.
I mean, it would make sense because why would the ships not be awake and like coming towards the traveler before it woke up? It's
Yeah,
because
like-
there was such a mass amount of light being planted at one time where they noticed it.
If there were things inside the ships, why would they also go to sleep? Like if they were ships, why would they just go to sleep? Be like, okay, peace. I'm gonna take a nap now. That seems odd to me.
Well,
But,
it's not
like-
But I mean,
that
I
odd.
suppose-
If you can't find the traveler, you go into hibernation until your ships detect it.
It's because that's kind of like saying if the traveler goes to sleep, so do the guardians, right? The Traveler
But the
was in a
pyramid-
coma. The Traveler was in a coma, and the Guardians were there. So if the pyramids were
could be
equivalent to
all-
the Traveler, and there was nothing inside them, they're just like Travelers, their forces should still be active.
Well, they could be fragments of one big, large whatever. I mean, they could just be broken up pyramids from that whatever.
They form together to make a big pyramid.
I
And
didn't
form-
want
Sort
to
of,
do that.
like some sort of like Voltron style.
I didn't say that because I knew it would go
triangles
there.
fit together.
Yeah.
Triangles fit together very well.
Yeah, almost like boringly well though. This is the
Yeah.
problem. Like
They
at least
make
with
spheres all
Voltron,
the time.
with Voltron they come together and make a giant robot. But with pyramid ships, with pyramids they just come together and they just form a bigger pyramid.
Well, I mean, they can make whatever they want.
Yeah.
What if
they can.
what if they link and they just like form a big circle, and it's like this big circle, and it's meant to like destroy planets or something? It'd be like a halo.
It'd be like a ring?
I could see that coming.
Okay, but wait
I
a
had the
second.
thought of the ships going together, and I did not say it for the specific reason because I knew.
How did we go the whole episode and not mention the black hole?
What black hole?
Exactly.
Black hole we go into for trials.
Oh, well, who cares about that?
Because
Yeah.
it could very much be where we're headed.
You think so?
Well, it could be, but I mean, it also couldn't be. I don't know. I mean, I feel as though there's no. We've seen that there was like an ambassador from the Nine in Mara's court.
Yeah, so Mara is clearly talking to them, even though we're not allowed to go there anymore. Come on, guys. The fuck?
Well, we can still go.
I forgot about that.
We can't go to the third spire.
You
We
have
can't
have
go to the
enough- you
third
have to have the
spire, but we can
password.
go to that Crucible map.
Oh, Eternity and Equinox? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be our
So-
escape plan. Oh, there's evil coming. Let's go into the Crucible map and just stay there.
It's not a bad idea.
Live on the pearlescent planet.
And it's
Hang
quite
out
a
with the
big. Well,
horses.
which one's the one with the wide open, the really big open area?
That would be Equinox, the new one.
Yeah. Oh, I like that map so much.
I do not.
Yeah.
It is
Oh, I
It's a
love it.
horrible
Because
fight,
it's the
but it's
no,
beautiful.
it's the only map where you have enough space for scout rifles to be actually kind of fun.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Whenever
long-range
I
rifle
go
on
that-
that map is a lot of fun.
Say that again?
Said long range weapons on that map. is
Yeah.
really fun.
Listen, if I can't use the last word on it, I don't even want it to exist in the game.
Yeah.
You can. You'll just be by yourself in the back parts where nobody goes.
Yeah.
There's literally a whole spot. I mean, the whole part of that map that no one even uses, which is a back alley.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people do use it, but it's just that it's not as fun as that big open area.
It's
Most
just
of my
Anyway-
encounters are
Run
actually in
to
the back
big
because everyone's just posted up with a sniper, and then I go in there with a hand cannon and just fucking take them all out.
So going back to it, because I mean, right now in Destiny lore, as far as what's connected to Mara's Sov, there's so much happening.
Yeah, she's
We
got her
have
fingers in
we
a
have
lot
the
of
pyramids,
pies.
We have the Nine, we have the Exo Stranger, and then we have Savathun and Queria, and we have the whole curse. Like
Yeah.
there's
Or
so much
you-
happening where we can't have like all of it progress forward. Like one of those things has to be the next step.
Like, is
Yeah.
Savathun
Right, like,
even a
Pyramids
part
has
of
gotta
it?
Be down the, like Savathun's got to be the next step because we still haven't seen the Last Wish and we still haven't broken the curse. So
That's
I
true,
think
but it
to me,
doesn't-
That's the next act.
It doesn't.
I
Yeah,
don't-
but I mean, we already know that the next thing that's going to happen is almost certainly not related to the Dreaming City. The
It
next
is
thing
definitely not.
is the
Joker's
what was the-
Wild.
Yeah, Joker's Wild, which begins in March,
Yeah.
and then
The season begins, just to so people know, the season will start on March 5th, and the way that Bungie is doing it, the DLC itself, Joker's Wild, Season of the Drifter will start March 5th, and Joker's Wild should start the following week on the 12th, unless they said Joker's Season of the Drifter starts the 26th, in which case Joker's Wild will start on the 5th. So just DLC drops a week after
it
the
starts
season.
a week after. Yeah.
Just whenever
Um,
they said it, I forget. But what if the Dreaming City, everything happening in the Dreaming City isn't even Savathun? Like, what if it's Savathun's daughter? Like, that's what we're being told now, right? That
What if it was Marisov?
who's the person? I keep thinking Iryu, and I know that's not right.
Dull Inkaru.
Duel and Karu. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if this is entirely her, and nothing with Savathun, nothing with Quoria, nothing at all, and it's just like that's what she's doing.
And the only thing that connects Quoria and Savathun is truth to power, which is very confusing. But
And
we
because
do have
like
mention
it's
in
talking.
one of the things we do have a mention of like the Vex having to have a role in this.
Yeah, they're like, it has to be the Vex. It's too perfect.
Yeah, but there's the whole unexplored part of Titan with the new brood and all the mentions of Savathun and how they've created void light. So I mean, they've got this power that they've got at their disposal now, to some degree, or they've learned how to do something with it.
Yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, I actually haven't been to the Oracle this week. I should do that.
Neither have I. Or have
because
I?
there is. I mean, it might be on the Ishtar Collective. Anna was just saying in chat. Shuro.
Yeah, this is the week where Shuro Chi is there, and she says
Yeah.
something different every time for like everyone. So
Yeah.
this is probably gonna be the end of it. Like, we'll just always go and see Shuro Chi, and she'll just be like, "Yo, did I tell you about that time I got a burger at Burger King and it was gross?" And that'll be it.
Yeah, this is how
She
they
won't,
wrap
she won't
it
say
up.
it like that though.
No, she'll be like, "Did I tell you about the time?" Like, yeah.
This wall is a testament to all of the walls in the Dreaming City.
But this week we got a pretty cool line from the mission.
Oh yeah,
when we
the
got
mission
her.
had new lines as well. Finally,
Oh,
What happened?
Cool.
I haven't done it yet.
because this is you like run up to Shuro Chi, right? And like normally she's there with the dead Corsair, and then she's like,
yeah. She's just like, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All right. Nice to see you too.
She's gone. And that feels like it was bugged. That feels like she was
Yeah.
supposed to say something every week, and she
Yeah.
just never did. Because why did she need to be there? Who's this random corpse? Like, why do I care?
Yeah.
It's to show that the Awoken are dying every week and they're suffering.
I don't
their
care.
purpose there.
But
What
but
did she say this week?
I don't
what
know.
stood out for me was she said, "Whatever you know will be stripped away and used against you. I lived it." So I think she's talking about, she was taken. So I think
Yeah.
she's talking about whatever. I mean, look.
Do you think that's about her being taken or about her becoming awoken?
No, I think the
No,
line is
taken.
longer than that, and it does say something about her being taken.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's been added to Ishtar.
So I can't help but wonder if Savathun is going to show up in some form.
Well, according to Toland, Quoria is the one with the power to take, because he's finally been able to emulate Oryx because
That's
of being
true.
taken, I guess. Because originally he
That is
wasn't.
true.
This is a whole Ant-Man stuck in the quantum realm thing. Like, things are happening and they're not being explained, and now we're just going, I think.
That's right. I feel like the next act has to be that. I don't think we're gonna have anything happen until fall 2019. And I feel like that's the next act has to be something to do with like Quoria. Like, it could be the Vex, and that's where like we leave the Dreaming City.
And that's
We
why I
do
mentioned
worry.
earlier that rotationally speaking, the Vex would make the most sense just because it would be their turn.
Well, not
If
the
you
next,
will.
not the next big thing, but the next act specifically.
Right.
Like the Mara's next act, which, so we're like right at the end. So like, let's get our closing statements, and I want to disagree with Guardian. Mara's focus is not against the Hive; it's against something greater than the Hive, because she saw Oryx and saw potential to gain more power there. She didn't see like, oh, I have to protect my people against Oryx. She's like, I'm going to sacrifice some people, I'm going to get stronger, and I'm going to fight the thing above Oryx. So to say that she's preparing for Savathun, for Quoria, that doesn't seem accurate, because like,
well, I didn't mean like preparing. I just meant like that's something that like is on the plate right now.
yeah, that's definitely going to come up.
But it's not the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my final thought. I think Mara's getting ready to fight the darkness, and I think ultimately the pyramids are a part of the darkness. I think that I actually kind of agree with Baxter. There might not be anything inside of them, but I don't think that they'll come alone. I think that they will come with entities, but that the pyramids themselves are kind of like the traveler, and the whole form, the halo. Bungie, you can use it. It's an original thought. I'm giving it to you.
So, question: since Marasaba is very like on the edge, and we have no idea what she's really doing, what if she's actually using the curse to gain power? And that's why she hasn't really been doing anything. Like, what if she is using the Dreaming City curse as a power source? And kind
She
of like,
seems upset about it, though.
yeah,
I like the
she could
idea,
still
but
be
she seems
using
upset
it.
about the curse.
Like, she's still upset that she like led a bunch of Awoken to their death, but she still used it.
But is
Like,
she
this is
upset?
the
Like,
first time she sacrificed the Awoken or caused them pain for the sake of a greater like picture. Like, that's kind of
she-
her MO.
is she faking being upset?
I think she's really
She's
upset.
like,
But, I mean, look
"Oh."
at her history. That's like all she does is just cause suffering and pain for the Awoken for a greater cause. That's
Is
literally
she
what she
actually
does.
upset? Yeah, that's a good point. Is she actually upset? Does she give a shit? I was gonna sacrifice my people. Now this bitch is coming in and killing them.
Hey, jerk.
Interesting.
All right, what's everyone else thinking?
I don't know. I think we've covered a lot of stuff.
I'm
I don't
really
know.
excited. Whatever it is, I'm just really excited.
Yeah, I think that the next two kind of smaller chapters, around, the Drifter and around Callus,
Uh-huh.
I do think that that they are going to build up to Act 3 this September. That's what I think.
I agree, and I think that kind of like really goes back to what we were saying. You just made me realize it, how we're going to see like multiple facets of it. We have the Drifter who's kind of saying embrace the darkness. We have Callus who's kind of saying the darkness is going to win. There's nothing you can do about it. We have 801 who's like I survived the darkness. So we're seeing all these things that were like different takes on what should happen, what did happen, how to fight what happened, and
Right.
just like Anna said in chat, don't forget about Aldrin. Like what's Aldrin's ultimate game gonna be? Like he's not gonna be in it for some time now. The writers already confirmed that. Like that was just kind of like a tease for the future, but like Aldrin can come into play a bigger part as well, because the sleepless rocket launcher Shuraido had the dream where Marasov was standing on a pyramid and she broke it in half with her bare hands or something like that. And her brother was there and he said something about the Caribbean or something like that. I forget.
There's so much crap happening right
That's
now.
not a joke. I legitimately forget what he says.
Yeah, let me just find it.
There's so much
Yeah,
stuff
there-
happening in this game right now.
Yeah.
There really is. There's a ton of crap all just being flushed down the toilet, and it's all competing for what's going to show up.
Yeah,
So what are you
He
thinking
said-
right now?
Tropea.
Okay, so I think, and like you said, I think, with the Gambit expansion, with the Joker's Wild, with the Joker's Wild expansion, I mean, we know about the story of the Last Word and the Thorn. I think that's a breadcrumb. We are very familiar with it, and so it was a way to hype back up the storyline. But I think that breadcrumb is reintroducing the fact that there is a tithe structure with the Hive, and this dissension into to darkness, if you will, is very much rooted in an enticement that we have a decision to take upon. So, like, for instance, we talked about Mara's wish, we talked about the Ahamkara, and they found a way to gain control over the Ahamkara without the Ahamkara gaining control over them, in a way. So we also have learned that the Hive can kind of do the same thing with Thorn. or whatever the hive are, with Thorn. So you make a bargain, it's very, very much a bargain, and then it starts to basically take over you. And I think they're reintroducing that storyline so that people can kind of get up to speed, those who are maybe newer or those who maybe need a little bit of a reminder. And then they're going to show us what happens with the darkness later on. But I think that the Joker's Wild is just going to be a continuation on the storyline we've already been trying to follow with the duel that's inevitably going to happen in some regard. Whether it be that Jaren's actually still around or not, I don't think any of that really matters. I just think that it's gonna reopen the door for something else to come in that's somewhat hive related. But whatever the Drifter knows, which could be all bull crap, whatever the Drifter knows about the hive that's just circumstantial. I don't think it has anything to do with the other threat that we'll probably see in Penumbra. But if Penumbra has anything to do with the Cabal or the Shadows or all of that, like what we said at the very beginning of this show, it could all be that the Cabal are very much rooted in whatever that threat was that the Drifter encountered. So if that is the case, and just speculation, spinfoil, if that is the case, and the Drifter is telling us, hey, I've seen the hive, they do this to people, and you can end up being a bad guy, and bad guys aren't necessarily bad. If that's what he's trying to tell everybody, then it might be time to embrace the darkness as they will, just so that we could fight the darkness, because you can't, like what they're trying to say is, you can't fight something that can't be seen, because if you try to fight it with your light, it's just going to disappear. Because here we are using our light to fight all these enemies of darkness, but there's something out there that doesn't even show up when we try to attack it with light. Do you follow me? Like, if
well, I don't know. So where do you get that from? The idea that there's something that we can attack with light, and how did you phrase it?
If they've stripped away our light already once, and that was how they set up the whole story arc for Destiny 2, so that we could regain our light, and then once we regain our light, we're able to be powerful again. And then we encounter the other threats that are in the universe. But as far as the darkness is concerned, as far as the shadows are concerned, we don't have any of that in our solar system yet. All we know is that they exist.
Who do we not have in our solar system?
We don't have the shadows.
Well, when you say the shadows, do you mean Callus's shadows?
Yeah.
Well, they were already in our solar system and they were killed.
But where are they?
They're all dead, right?
I don't think they're all dead.
I'm pretty sure they all died.
I could have sworn that there's some other ones that have just been left open-ended, and I was expecting
there
to
were
get kind of more.
There were two stories of shadows that didn't have a final.
Which isn't to say that they aren't dead. It's just to say that we don't know.
And even so, even if they do it, even if they are alive, I don't know why. Like, are you suggesting that we can't defeat them using light?
I'm only speculating at this point, because I know that just from the way that the story is going and how it's gone before, I just think that now would be the time to reintroduce the hive and show how a bargain can ultimately turn someone towards the darkness, and that is a part of what they're leading to, so that they can reintroduce a hive threat or a Vex threat that's tied to the hive, and show what happens when everything goes wrong. But the overarching theme, and stepping back from the big picture, is the hints that they keep dropping everywhere with penumbra, with the shadows, with the very much the darkness that you just can't even deal with it with light. So I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I agree with the conclusion there. In that, I don't think. I don't know. I just don't expect us to go down the path of having like dark guardians, and I know that's not necessarily what you're suggesting. I just
no,
feel as
not at
though
all.
the idea, if we're forced to make a deal with the Hive as part of the storyline, I'm going to be very upset by that, because that's not a deal that I would ever. It's not a choice that I would make.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's the point. Yeah, but that's the point, because the story is showing you why you would never make that choice. So what I'm saying is the story is showing you that right now. It's showing you the negative outcome of making that choice. So in your mind, in your heart of hearts, as a player in the game, you're thinking right now, I would never do that. Well, why would you never do that? It's because the story's been presented to you that way. And so it's gearing you and shifting you and leading you on a trail that shows you that's the side you can't be on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I just think the idea that there are going to be enemies that can't be defeated by the light.
Well, it's
I don't
going to be
know.
an alternate. There's going to have to be some alternate, uh, whatever you want to call it, whether it be light, ability, whatever. There's going to have to be some alternate avenue that we're going to have to use in order to defeat what, way down the line, the penumbra expansion, if that's even a part of it, will be tied to.
I mean, I think it's likely. That's the way the previous expansions have worked. The idea that we have to get a new subclass or something in order to be able to defeat a new
We have
enemy.
to like refine our light, make it stronger,
With
Or
the
mutate
introduction.
it into something else, or
Well, that hasn't happened though.
right. I know we've
No,
only
no,
ascended.
I'm saying these are the things that have happened. So far, it has happened that we have had to get new subclasses in order to defeat previous enemies.
Yeah, that
Those
was
things,
that was a
those
plot
things,
in the Taken King. It was like you
yeah,
can't do
yeah,
this with your
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
You make a good point there. We very much we changed, right? So we as
yeah.
guardians changed very much.
Well, but we didn't. There were certain fundamental things that didn't change.
Right.
We didn't
Just the
like, and that's
elements.
why I was kind of being a little pedantic there, because we didn't mutate. We didn't change who we were as guardians. We found a new way to use the light.
I think
I think
no, sorry, go on.
so far we haven't had a situation where we've had to like dramatically change who we were in order to defeat our enemies. I would
Light's a
argue.
prism.
I
Light goes through a prism.
I think the avenue that it could go is that, like, the Drifter says how Void used to be considered like blasphemous. It was like, oh, you can't use Void. That's not the light. And it's like, yeah, but it is a light, so it's all right to use. So I don't think we would go so far as to use dark powers, but we might be more like, all right, Drifter, we need whatever you're making. You're making motes of dark.
Right.
They're making these technologies that are powered with dark, kind of like what Thorn is, kind of what Necrochasm, Touch of Malice is, things like that. Where our guardians, like, we're not gonna have a dark subclass, but we might be using things that were once considered, whoa, you're a guardian, you can't use that.
Hey, can I tell you something real quick?
I think philosophies might change, but ourselves will not.
You talked about motes of dark, and remember in the very beginning of Destiny 1, we had motes of light that would drop.
Yeah.
And they were, so our motes of light, we would pick them up, and that would be something that we could use to progress in the game. What was funny about that is years ago when I was looking for a definition as to what the heck a mote was in that regard, when they use the word mote that way, you can't find it just in open definition, but you can find it in some archaic usages of the word. And what it meant was a piece of a spirit, or a piece of a soul, or a piece of a ghost, or a piece of a specter.
Yes.
A mote is a floating orb of smoke in a way, but the smoke is not smoke, if you will. It's basically a spirit of some sort, and that mote can be dropped anywhere. So when people would go around their houses using smoke to ward off evil spirits, that was very much a technique that they practiced because they believed that there were motes of spirits or pieces of evil spirits that could be in your space, and a way to ward them off was to walk around the house with motes
So
of smoke.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right.
Totes motes.
Totes motes.
Totes motes.
But I think it's weird that they use that as a way to describe a piece of light that's dropped, basically. And then we have the Drifter reintroducing motes, but motes of darkness.
Hmm.
Well, we've come to our time, and I think that's a good place to stop. Because there's nowhere to go from there that's not just another hour of talking.
No, I know. It's just
I do think that's interesting, though. The moat thing. That is pretty neat.
But what does he use them for? He uses them to grow more taken?
We don't know yet. We know that
Yeah, we
he
haven't
alludes
figured it
to
out.
it being powerful.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, our next show will be in early March. So just before Season of the Drifter launches or Joker's Wild launches, because I forget which it is. It'll be on March 3rd, 3/3. Everyone can make that? No known
I think
plans?
so. No
We
known
good?
plans. Only unknown unknowns.
And so if you came into the show late, it will be going up on our Anchor, which pushes out to iTunes, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, everywhere.
Podbean.
All that stuff. Yeah, Podbean. It'll be going up on that later. And also it'll go up on our YouTube later. And if you're just looking to find us, be more in touch with us at Loose Canon Show, just like it is here on our Twitch. It's the same exact thing on our Twitter at Loose Canon Show. One N or CANON and Canon. So drop us a follow there. We only ever, tweet going live. Like the most you'll ever see us tweet is like the day of, where we're like hour to live, 10 minutes to live, we're live, and then usually the rest of the week it's pretty quiet. So you can put us up on notifications if you want. Always know what's going on.
Cool.
Bye.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
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 Guardian's not saying bye.